Hello Aamir, this is the testing video for your GS430 2000 to 2005 into IS200 plug and play with the J160 gearbox. So to start off with, I'm just going to go through exactly how the harness lays out on your actual engine, just so you know how to put it on when you get it. So you've got your ECU and everything plugs in over there. We've got your little patch there between the IS200 ECU plugs that remain inside your box and the 3UZ ECU. Coming down into here, obviously you've got your black and your grey and your blue plug that just plugs straight into there. You've got your grommet, which is going to fit directly into there. So just a heads up, this ECU is the same shape as an IS200 ECU. If you can't get your hands on an IS200 ECU box, you can actually just grind this lip away and this will then fit into an IS200 ECU box. Okay, so that's just a nice little tip when you get to that stage. Okay, you've got a couple of little sort of junction boxes here. This one will obviously slot in here next to the blue one. This big one over here, I'd probably just tuck away underneath, or put the grey one over there and then tuck this other one, whichever one works out best when you get it your side. Right, so obviously it's going to come out of the ECU box. It's then going to make its way onto your engine. From here it then splits into like a U shape, so it goes obviously around the engine like that. There is a section that splits down the front, so we'll go and look at that in a minute. So we'll start by going around the U section. So this bolts on over here and over here. Coming out this section over here, you've got your injector one and your coil one. Coming along further over here to this box over here, this bolts on here and here at the top. And then this front section over here, you've got injector 3, coil 3, and your cam sensor over there. Coming further along, we then move obviously to injector 5 and coil 5. Further down the back here, you've got the last opening of the box there, and that obviously goes to injector 7 and coil 7. It comes over the top here, over your fuel pulsation damper. Then you've got your back piece of plastic over here. Now this bolts on over there, and it bolts on over there. And just the only thing that plugs into this back section here is your plug that goes underneath into your sub harness, that goes under your intake, that goes to your knock sensors and your starter. So there's your starter cable. Obviously we've got a joint to lengthen it to the IS200 section over there. Coming further along down here, oh sorry, I do apologize. Down at the bottom here, you've got your earth strap that bolts into that hole over there at the top. You'll see you've got two other holes there. That's the one for the actual harness. Then you've got your gearbox section that comes out that we've got draped along there. So that's your speed sensor for your IS200. And there's your reverse for your IS200 J160 gearbox. Okay. And then you've got your lambda sensor that runs underneath down the side over there. So there is heat shields that are here. You do need to use them obviously, because you can see this plug is quite close to there. So yeah, just make sure you fit that heat shield back that goes in over there. Coming along here, you've got another sort of out section that appears over here. So you've got your earth coming down there, and this little new section here, that's for your accelerator pedal. So you've got your 70 centimeter wire that goes over there. This then obviously makes its way into your firewall, into your vehicle, and obviously this is the pedal that you're using in your actual vehicle itself. Coming around here, you've got this where the plastic ends, and then you've got injector 8 and coil 8 coming out there. Going a bit more forward, you've got injector 6, coil 6, and importantly your ACIS, which plugs into this thing, connector over here. It does usually have a metal bracket holding it on there. Yours might not have it when it got stripped apart, so just make sure you plug that in. We'll talk about the ACIS in a minute as part of the testing. Coming forward here again, then we break out here for injector 3 and injector 2 and coil 2, and then you've got your cam sensor that goes in the middle there. Coming more forward, we've got injector 2 and coil 2, so this is the right bank, so it's 2, 4, 6, 8. And then you've got your coolant temp sensor, which goes down into there. You've got your oil control valve for your VVT-i that goes into there. You've got your cable that goes into your drive-by-wire motor, which lives over there. Then you've got the harness. Now, it's a little bit stretched over here, so I can hold this box up. But then obviously comes out and goes to your mass airflow sensor. So that's the one that you should have. Well, a GS430 actually has a slanted up one. Just make sure you get the correct one for that. This is an LS430. They are wired all the same. It's just they're not the same. They should not meant for this particular ECU. So just make sure you got the slanted up one like that. Okay. Coming down here, then you've got this section which will sort of run along here like this. Comes down into here. You've got your alternator 3-pin plug over there. You've got your lambda plug over there. Now obviously if this wasn't taut over here, this lambda plug has a little sort of metal bracket over there, and that sort of slides into there. And obviously this is a LS430 with the mid to rear sump. So this is your oil level sensor that'll plug into the sump, and your sump's obviously at the front like that. Now, the one that you've got installed is obviously your alternator main positive, so this is basically bolted onto here. All right, and then it's going to run down here along the subframe up to the other side, and I'll explain to you on the fuse box itself where that plugs in. So, coming down the front side here, so you've got a breakout over here, it comes down and it goes to the TPS sensor of your throttle body there. Little short one breaks out to the oil control valve over here. Then it's going to come down along here, it's going to break out here and go over to your front cam sensor over there. You can see you've got little hole there, and you've got little hole there, so this harness just clips into there. Then you've got your plug for your air conditioning, so we don't have a pump here, but this is where it would go. Then it goes through this little hole behind the aircon pump, comes along into there, down to that hole over there, and then it comes out to your crank sensor at the bottom. Now again, we've got an LS, so this goes over here, but in your case, the actual oil filter housing is further back, and the switches are the back of that. So this one would come out and go towards the back, not the front where it is now, but just because we're using an LS engine. Right, so that's basically how the actual engine harness goes onto the engine and how it's laid out, just so you know exactly what you're doing when you get it your side. In terms of the powers, obviously you've got the main starter cable as part of the sub harness coming out. Now in our case, obviously you've got to join onto here because it's not long enough, but this one would effectively just bolt onto here. That's your positive of your battery terminal. Don't forget you do have another cable, and this your one doesn't have a right angle, well, it does have a right angled one, and should have like a little lip or something. Anyway, it fits over the other one, and you basically bolt it down there. Make sure you got the other one, because that's what supplies the power to your actual fuse box, which is the one behind your battery. That's where the alternator goes. So again, you just need to bolt the alternator down there, run along there, under the subframe, up to the alternator there. All done, okay? In terms of earthing, you've got your negative of your battery terminal there. So it'd look like this terminal over here. It's sort of another right angle one. It goes down under the battery, bolts to the chassis, goes down, and then bolts to the block over there. Okay, so that's your main earth is going like that. Your other earth that you can put on effectively would be to use one of these holes over here and just take a little earth strap, and then you can use this little earthing point at the top here. That's the same one your 1G used to use. Okay, so that's your powers, that's your earths, that's everything sorted out, and that should be good to go. So hopefully that's helpful, and you know exactly how to put it on when you get it to your side. Right, so as for testing today, what we're going to do is we're going to run through a couple of things to make sure they all work. Starting out, we're going to put the ignition on, and then we're going to check the ambient temperature or the outside temperature inside, make sure that works. We're going to check the charge light and the oil pressure light, so they'll obviously appear on the dash there. We're going to check your reverse just by bridging the switch over there. Make sure we get the buzzing noise for the reverse coming on. We're going to feed a signal to the speed sensor plug to make sure that the speedo works. Then what we're going to do is we're going to obviously go to our OBD2 machine, and we'll show that obviously it's communicating and it's picking up with the GS430. And then we'll test the AC clutch as well, so we'll hear the actual relay clicking over there. So again, the system needs to be plumbed in properly. You've got to have all the pressure switches and everything that are in front here. They all need to work in order for this to work. Okay. Then what we're going to do is we're going to get it started up. So we're going to show obviously that the immobilizer is removed. And then we're going to have the drive-by-wire test. So in other words, we're just going to press the pedal down to show that it's working, and it'll rev up. Starter circuit, obviously that'll be tested, the fact that we started and it does actually crank over and start. Then we're going to look at the acoustic control induction system, or ACIS. So that's this little valve at the back here. So I've got a nice video on how the ACIS system works. So again, you can go through and watch that. But basically this valve over here will shoot closed, or yeah, in this case closed, as soon as the engine starts up. Okay, so once we've done that, we're going to go over to the OBD2 machine. We're going to test both oil control valves, one on each bank. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to go and pull each injector off one by one, just to show that each cylinder is firing correctly. We are going to then make sure the tacho works. So obviously, because the 3UZ gives out a 4-cylinder signal and we're looking for a 6-cylinder signal, we've got a tacho corrector in here. Obviously, I've adjusted it now on the bench, but if you find I got it as accurate as I can, but if you want to adjust it, there is actually a video on how to adjust these. Okay, really nice and simple. You just basically have a pot resistor in here that you turn with a small screwdriver. All right, and lastly, coolant temp. So we're going to make sure the coolant temp works. Obviously, we've been going through all the tests, so more than likely when I do turn the ignition on, that is obviously going to come to life and that is going to work. All right, so let's get into it. So again, nice and simple. effectively you're just going to put your key in once you plugged everything in. You're going to turn your ignition on. Okay, we've got the ignition on, so we've got the oil light there, we've got the battery light there, we've got the check engine light there. Just remember, obviously the TRC system is not going to work, so you do want to remove that bulb, else we're going to have that annoying TRC flashing over there. So just remember that. Coming over to our ambient temperature sensor now. You can see 18 degrees, so that all works as it should, so that's no problem. Okay, so we've done ambient temp, we've done charge light, we've done oil pressure. Let's move on to reverse. So all I'm going to do basically is go ahead and I'm going to bridge the switch. So bear with me a second while I do that. And there you go, I've just bridged the switch, exactly what your gearbox does, and you can hear the beeping there to show that the reverse circuit is working as it should. Happy with that. Right, let's move on to the speedo. So basically what we're doing is the speedo is a Hall effect sensor, so it's got power, ground and signal. So I'm using the power and ground to power the device, so I know the power and ground are correct and they're working as they should do. Then all we're going to do is put it into test mode. It's going to output a signal and we're going to see the speedo go up. So bear with me a second while I put it into test mode. Right, so that's in test mode now. So all I'm going to do is I'm literally going to put the yellow wire, which gives out the signal into there. And as you can see, the speedo is now giving us a speed signal. So I'll disconnect that. There you go. So happy with that. We know that all the wiring from there all the way to the dash is absolutely fine. So if you don't get a speed signal, more than likely an issue with the actual speed sensor itself. All right. So that's all that done now. So we're going to go over to our OBD2 machine, show that that's working, show it's communicating, and then we'll test the AC clutch. Okay, so here we are at the OBD2 machine. So I'm going to try and see if I can angle this up ever so slightly so we don't have a light glaring on there. Okay, hopefully that's clear. Right, so I'm just going to go into function and system select, just so that you can actually see that it's picking up as a GS430. Okay, and this is just plugged directly into the OBD ports that would be inside your vehicle. So there's no extra ports or anything like that, just literally everything is standard, you just plug it straight in. Okay, all right, so we're going to go over to data list and we're just going to check that all the data is coming through. So you'll see there 53 degrees, 23 degrees intake air temp, 15% throttle, and so you'll see already the coolant temp is off the cold mark there. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go to active test. That's going to be able to test our AC magnetic clutch relay. We're going to go into there. Right, so obviously I'm going to activate it and turn it off and on. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to move the camera over to the fuse. So there's your magnetic relays in that fuse box next to your ECU. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that all works as it should, so that's absolutely fine. So I'm just going to exit the active test there. Right, so what we're going to do now is obviously we're going to fire it up. Before we fire it up, I'm just going to show you that you can hear the engine is very, very quiet. So when you first put the key on, the throttle doesn't make a noise. The second you press the accelerator down, so now you can hear that buzzing noise of the throttle. Okay, all right, so what we're going to do now is we are going to fire it up and we're going to carry out the rest of those tests. So obviously the fact that we fire it up shows the immobilizer is removed. We're going to rev it actually up while it's running so you can see the drive-by-wire works 100%. Starter circuit will be tested as the fact that it cranks over and starts. We're going to go to the back of the engine. We're going to check the ACIS valve has moved to the closed position. Then we're going to go to the OBD2 machine, test the oil control valves. We're going to go around and pull the injectors out one by one to make sure every cylinder is firing. We'll show that the tacho is working and obviously the coolant temp, which you've already seen, but we'll show you once it's been running for a little while. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put my earmuffs on because it's going to be very quiet, very loud. Okay, I'm going to continue to talk as I go along through. Usually you can hear me, but obviously I've gone through everything that we're going to do and I'll come back and point to it as we go and test it. All right, so nice and simple. Just going to plug that in. Okay, and let's fire it over. Okay, so there she is running. So we're going to do the drive-by-wire test. yes. So we can see the valve has moved closed. So we're going to go to oil control valve now. So we're going to go active test. VVT-i control bank 1. Pull all the injectors out one by one to test if they're working. So we'll start here at cylinder number 1. Okay. Cylinder number 3. Cylinder number 5. Cylinder number 7. Now, and we can see the tacho is working, and look at the coolant temp, and we can see the temp has risen as it goes along. So you can see there 65 degrees, and it's showing on there. Okay, right. So what I'm going to do now is just kill the engine. Okay, just going to the fuel pump so I don't leave any pressure in the lines as they are there. Right, okay, so happy with that. She sounds nice and smooth. She idles really nicely. And I don't have any issues there. All the cylinders are firing as they should. Everything's inside the car itself is actually working. You would have seen both the charge and the oil light go off when she was running, and same with the check engine light as well. Okay, so in terms of diagnostics, OBD2, plug her straight in and away you go. Basically, there is one thing that you can do if you ever think that your vehicle is out of time. So if you've got a pre-2001 IS200, you will have this little diagnostic port here at the front of this fuse box. You can bridge TC and E1 on this one. What that basically does is it puts the machine in diagnostic mode. What that does is it locks the timing at 10 degrees. So if you think a timing belt has skipped a tooth or something like that, and you just, before you start pulling all the covers and everything off, you can actually just bridge that there. Or on your OBD2 plug inside the vehicle, it's pin 4 and 13. You can get a timing light. You can actually check the timing. You've got marks on the front of the engine here. So what happens is it locks it at 10 degrees. So you can see down here you've got 15, 10, 5 and 0. So with the timing light on cylinder 1, you can then check that you're at 10 degrees. So if you're at 12 or whatever so on, then you know the timing is up before you even take all the covers and everything off to check. So that's a nice little sort of easy way of checking timing. I do have a video on that if you want to go through that. Okay, so happy with everything there. Hopefully you're happy with how everything actually goes on the engine itself. Happy with how everything goes inside the ECU box. Happy with the gearbox and how that's going to obviously just come down here and along the gearbox and plug in when you go along there. Again, happy with the pedal. It's literally just going to unplug from here. You've obviously got a new plug on there, and then you're just going to pull that through the firewall and then plug it into your pedal inside the car. Okay, and that's about it really. And then just remember, this is a deadhead system, so the fuel pressure regulation is taken care of in the tank on the IS200 side. So effectively all you got to do really is join this inlet pipe over here. So just remember, these are fuel pulsation dampers. These are not fuel pressure regulators. And they are quite nice though, because you can see they've got a little sort of Phillips screw in the top there. Don't turn it, it's not going to do anything, you're just going to break it. But when there is actual fuel pressure, you'll see that they'll rise up. So if you're ever unsure whether you got fuel pressure, just come to these two at the end here, and they'll rise up as soon as you got fuel pressure, and you know you've got fuel pressure. It's not going to be a good indication, but It's not going to tell you exactly what pressure you are, but at least you know you've got some pressure. I normally find you can squeeze them down a little bit. So sometimes if your regulator is broken and you're pumping like full pressure through here, these will be absolutely rock hard. When it's running normally, you should be able to sort of gently press it down with your finger. It's still tough because it's running at about sort of 3.5 bar, but you can feel that that's over there. Do make sure that your ACIS works, because if you don't, you're going to lose a hell of a lot of power. So again, do watch the video, explain exactly how it works, what's happening inside the inlet manifold there. But obviously you lose a hell of a lot of low down torque, you know, when you, if that is not working over there. All right. And obviously what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go into DTCs quickly, or trouble codes on there. And you can see we've got 0 code. So obviously we've remapped completely out the automatic gearbox. You have been remapped, you've got a higher RPM limit, better throttle response, everything is described. So yeah, that's it basically. So hopefully you're happy. Hopefully it's a relatively straightforward install. If there is anything that you are unsure of, or you want to have a question, please just fire us a message. If anybody's been watching and you'd like more information, etc., then please just give us a shout in the comments below or at our Facebook page, and we'll get back to you as soon as we possibly can. But yeah, that's it guys, thanks for watching, and yeah, let's get this boxed up and off to you. Thank you very much, bye bye.